Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start. We have most of the people on, I believe, so I'm going to mute everyone, but you can still talk to me when you need to.
Mhm.
Couple housekeeping things. One, I am on every Monday and Wednesday at 11 o'clock. I know there was no email or anything went out about Monday's session, but we did meet on Monday. You would use the same Zoom link. So if you don't receive anything, I will be, you know, doing this Monday at 11 and Wednesdays at 11. Anything changes, we'll let you know. We'll try to get a notice out to everybody, but sometimes it doesn't work. But 10 or 12 people were able to find me on Monday. We will redo that session next Monday, and that will be dealing with POA Act. The other thing that I want to mention is I handle questions as they come up. If it's about the subject matter today, if you have other questions, we'll do it at the end. So Monday is Ask Larry. I'm going to handle questions as they come up. It's just the way I like to teach, because if you're asking a question about the subject matter, it's important to handle it now instead of later. I also want to go back and revisit paragraph 8 real quickly. I am using the contracts package that they sent to you again today, 7/1/2020. It's the latest contract. But we have an ongoing problem at another office with paragraph 8, where the seller does not want to sign the release because the agent's saying, we haven't sent you the documents yet, see your contract. Well, paragraph 8 deals with POA, and it starts out with, seller represents the property is located within a development that is subject to the Virginia POA Act. So if it's subject to the Virginia POA Act, it's all 37 sections. They only, in paragraph 8, they only have part of section 1808B, but the whole act is part of it. Don't try to say that the seller has to deliver the documents before the buyer can bail out. That's not what our statute says. It actually says, until I receive a notice the documents will not be available, or I have received the documents, I have the right to void my contract, period. So I wrote a long, detailed email they can forward to the other side and tell them, you've got to read the whole act. It's, not just this one little paragraph. Remember, they moved everything that used to be in this long paragraph that covered most of the POA Act into a separate form that a buyer signs acknowledging that you have gone over the rights and what the law says under the resale certificate is not part of the contract. So hopefully the agent will get the message from the other company today that we actually know what we're talking about over here at Fairfax Realty. Move on with this, okay? But today we are covering paragraph 10. I believe we got through 8 and 9. The last session, there is no difference between condo and POA in the law anymore. They made them the same. Just the one calls it the, a certificate. The other is the POA document. So, but it's the same. So let's concentrate on paragraph 10 and also the home inspection addendum and removal form today. So I'm on page 5 of the sales contract. Page 5 of your package should be. It says property maintenance and condition. One of the things they did with paragraph 10 is remove the word equipment. This deals with property maintenance and condition. And it goes, except as otherwise specified herein. So a lot of people say this is an as-is contract. It is as is, except as otherwise specified herein. What does that mean? Well, it's pretty simple. There are certain things in other parts of this contract that aren't as is, okay? So I want you to go to page 26 in this package, and it's called Contingencies and Clauses, page 26. Let me get to it. Paragraph 2B, okay? 2B, as is property condition. If you're writing a contract that's going to be as is, when you just write in the contract, the property comes as is, what does that mean? You know, are the buyer and the seller on the same page? So don't do as is. Use this 26B if it's going to be as is. The following terms in this contract are hereby amended. Check all that apply. So if it's going to be completely as is, does that mean free and clear of trash and debris? Well, then check it. Smoke detectors that are required by law, then check it. All clauses pertaining to termites and wood destroying insects are deleted. And then the last two are the really important ones. All clauses pertaining to seller's compliance with all orders or notices of violation of any county or local authority are deleted. And all requirements for seller to comply with property owners or condo owners association notice of violations related to the physical condition of the property are deleted. Now, if you checked every one of those boxes and the buyer and seller initial the crosshair, now you have an as-is contract. You removed all those otherwise contained herein's that they talk about in paragraph 10. So if you went to paragraph 20, just to show you how this works, if you go to paragraph 20 on page 7, okay, of your package, it's called title. Now, if you went down to the last paragraph on that page, the last two sentences starts with the word unless. Has everybody found me? Paragraph 20 of your sales contract on page 7, last paragraph at the bottom, says, unless otherwise agreed to in writing, seller will pay any special assessments and will comply with all orders or notices of violations of any county or local authority, condo unit owners association, homeowners, POA, etc. If you don't remove that from the contract, I don't care if you have an as-is contract written in there somewhere else as is. You haven't removed a statutory requirement that the seller provide the buyer a notice showing any known violations that they received a written order on. So if you're going to do an as-is, or you're selling your seller's property as an as-is, make sure you use those contingencies and clauses so that everybody's on the same page. You don't want to have a judge determine what everybody's thought the contract meant. Any questions about that? Now, this paragraph used to read, and show you the importance of paragraph 20, the last one. It used to read, will comply with all requirements, comma, orders or notices of violations. So a requirement is a little different than an order or notice. An order or notice is an actual violation that they received written notice on. So if someone finished the basement without a permit, well, there was a requirement they had to have a permit if they were flowing with water, plumbing, electric. You guys know that. But if they hadn't received an actual written notice of a violation of not having the permit, and your buyer buys the property, once they settle, the problem became theirs. Okay, so don't go back to saying, well, the county came in and said we had to have permits, they want us to take the walls down, seller, you didn't tell us that, you should have told us. There was no actual written or notice or order, and it hadn't been removed from the contract. So please use all this, right? You've heard me talk about FIDO before in Fairfax County. If you Google FIDO, F-I-D-O, Fairfax Inspection Department Operations, You can type a property address in on any property in Fairfax County, and it will show you if any permits were pulled to do work on that property and if they were finalized. Okay. If that basement was finished without a permit, your buyer should be protecting themselves. Okay. You should be protecting yourself. Remember that other form that we've talked about when we talked about new forms. There's a form that you can get signed that they acknowledge that this is not in their best interest if they go forward without these permits. Okay. Adverse, consequences of what you do with your contract. So back to paragraph 10 on page 5.
Larry, what is the name of that form that they have to sign?
They don't have to sign it. You want them to sign it. It's called adverse consequences. I'll find the form number, etc. I don't have it here in front of me, but it's a new form. It came out from the Board of Realtors in January. Okay.
Thank you.
But it's a adverse consequences form where if they pull out the home inspection, they pull out appraisal, all the things they pull out, they should know there's an adverse consequence. So you get the buyer to sign that and keep in your folder. It's not attached to the contract. Okay. So it goes on, seller will deliver property free and clear of trash and debris. So everything has to be removed completely from the property, not piled up on the street. Okay. Broom clean. What does broom clean mean? Literally.
They're not going to do deep cleaning.
Do what?
They won't do deep cleaning.
No, I mean, broom clean means they literally swept the house out, right? So if people lived like a slob when they would live there, what makes you think they're going to fix it up for your buyer? Okay. I mean, if the appliances are filthy, they're going to be filthy when they settle. Okay. And I've seen people try to put that on a walkthrough. If you want it cleaned professionally, put it in your contract, sell to have professionally cleaned, right? And substantially the same physical condition. Now, this is where it's going to get interesting. Substantially the same physical condition to be determined as of date of offer, date of home inspection, or other. Okay. Let's examine these choices. In light of what just happened, the weather event, did anybody have any trees go down or basements flood? I'm sure there were. Okay. Now, if you chose date of offer for the purchaser, then and this event happened afterwards and there was damage to the house, they would have to fix it. The problem is, how do you prove what condition of property was in on the date of offer? Okay. Or you could choose date of home inspection. Now think about this. You wrote a contract, it was ratified, okay? 3 days later, this tropical storm comes through and causes damage to the house. Okay, now your contract is written on whatever day. You said you would take the property in the condition it's in on the date of home inspection. This damage happened after contract, but before date of home inspection. Is that something the seller would have to fix? I'm thinking no, because they said they'd take the property into condition as of the date of home inspection. Now the home inspection is going to show the problem and you're going to ask for it to be fixed. But, the seller could say no, this was the condition this house was in on the date you said that you would take it in that condition. Now, you could always void your contract, but what about if you wrote informational purposes only? And we had this situation in a discussion last week. You put information purposes only, okay? And it was date of home inspection for informational purposes only. That seller wouldn't have had to fix that damage. Okay.
Excuse me, Larry. What paragraph is that?
I'm in paragraph 10 on page 5 of the contract.
Larry, for home inspection and home inspection information purposes only, if the utilities are not working and we request them and they're ready to do it for the like main utilities, like say AC or HVAC and all that, they most of the agents they understand that okay they will do that much, even though they are not
No,
supposed to.
I don't understand that. So what did what does informational purposes only mean?
You
To
just
me,
see what is how it's working. You
inf-
cannot ask for it anything.
no, that's not what
You can void the
informational
offer. You can just void the contract, not like
not
ask
if you
anything.
not if you didn't use the home inspection addendum. I mean, if you just wrote in your contract informational purposes only, and it shows the AC doesn't work, well, tough. Now you know it doesn't work.
Yeah, you just know. So all you can do is not ask for repairs, but you can void the contract.
No, you can't.
You can't.
No,
Then
not if you.
why is there inspection? Information purpose only. You're doing the inspection. You're keeping the contingency, but
Yeah,
you keep
if
the
you
right
wrote,
to get out.
if you wrote in your contract for informational purposes only, then it doesn't say you could void the contract if you don't like if you don't like what you found.
No, you have to use the home inspection addendum and choose the
Yeah.
second one.
No, but that's the point I'm making. I believe you're the one that has the seller counter back and say informational purposes only, and that was written in the contract, and it wasn't the use of the addendum. Was it you that had that situation?
Yeah, we use the addendum. That's what I'm saying. You can void it, and then the other agent asked me to change.
Only if you use the addendum, and we're going to get there.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So my point here is, if you put here date of home inspection for the condition of the property, okay, then whatever condition the property is on that day is the condition it has to be on its settlement. Okay. But if you chose, so if the damage happened between the date of offer, okay, and the date of home inspection, the seller could take the position, hey, this storm came up, I'm sorry, but the damage was there on the date of home inspection. That's the point I'm trying to make here, okay? But if you write into the contract, and I know people do, they write in, this home inspection is for informational purposes only, and they do not use the addendum form that we will take a look at, you're just asking for trouble, okay? Because if there's another paragraph in the contract says, all handwritten and typewritten additions to this contract override any pre-printed information, okay? So do not write the words for informational purposes only anywhere in your contract. Use the addendum form that we'll take a look at for the opportunity to do that still void. All right.
So Larry,
yes.
My question is, when property maintenance and condition, what is the tick mark we supposed to do it when we buying it? I mean, we putting the offer.
Well, let's examine the choices here. Date of offer.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Date of offer is that first blank in the sales contract, right?
Right.
Okay. So how do you know what worked and didn't work on the date of offer?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We don't know.
You don't. So you're at the mercy of the honesty of the owner.
Right.
So let's say that it was date of offer. You do your walkthrough and you bring 5 items to me, okay, at the table. And I'm there with my wife, and I look at the first one, and it says repair leaky faucet in master bedroom or whatever. I turn to Honey and I say, honey, you know that faucet you've been trying to get me to fix for you for the last 2 years? Prem wants me to fix it for his wife. What do you think about that? What do you think she's going to say? She's probably going to say, she's probably going to say no. If you fix it for her, don't bother coming home with me because you wouldn't fix it for me. So what did we just tell you about that whole list? You might as well put it away, because how are you going to prove that it was broken, after the date of offer? So when would you probably choose date of offer realistically? Probably if it's a multi-contract presentation because everybody else chose date of offer, right? Now, here's the other problem. If you choose date of home inspection, that's sometime in the future, correct?
Right.
You're saying you'll take the property, and when are you going to get your home inspection done? 4 or 5 days from now?
Right.
So you're saying you would take the property in the condition it is in 4 or 5 days from now. Okay. So let's say I had Viking appliances in my kitchen. You know, those really expensive things, what, $10,000, $20,000 appliances. Now you said you'd take the property in the condition it was on the date of home inspection. You come for the home inspection. All those items are now gone and in my new home. And I put in new GE appliances in the place of them. What are you going to do to me? I mean, you said you'd take my house in the condition it was in on the date of home inspection, and those are the appliances there on the date of home inspection. Now, you could always void your contract, right, under the home inspection clause, but hey, you've already tried 10 other houses and didn't get them, and this is the first one you got a contract accepted on. So you got to be careful. I'm probably going to check date of offer, okay? And down below, I'm probably going to ask for a home inspection. All right. And then, you know, we can argue it out later, but if I chose date of offer and then we have the home inspection, and you won't fix stuff, I can still avoid my contract, even though you try to say, well, all those things were already broken on what? On the date of offer. There's no easy solution to this. Okay. So you have to discuss it with your buyer. At least if we have date of home inspection, we have a report that shows us what condition that property is on that day. It shows us what appliances worked on that day, what appliances didn't work on that day. Then we have an opportunity to negotiate, okay? We have an opportunity to negotiate what I will fix and not fix. And then those things have to work on the date of settlement. So date of home inspection is probably the best one if you want to know what has to be fixed and not fixed and what we agree to in the end. But this is no easy paragraph, okay? It's really a tough paragraph in our sales contract as to which one the parties should check. The one box I will tell you never check is other, okay? Don't use other. That's a leftover from the regional contract. I still see people put in there date of settlement. Who would love you to put date of settlement?
Seller.
The seller, because nothing has to work. Okay. If you said you take the property in the condition it's in on the date of settlement, why even do a walkthrough? Okay, because you're going to get the property as is. And I've had agents still think that no, everything has to be in normal operating condition. That's been gone for 5, 10 years. Okay, so don't ever use that unless it's going to be a tear down. And the more stuff they take away, the less you have to get rid of.
So in other words, you're trying to say we have to do the best answer is the date of home inspection. Tick mark.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay, because just like the storm we just went through, okay, if you said you take the property as of the date of home inspection and there was damage to the property from the storm from the date the contractor's date of offer to that day, the seller technically wouldn't have to fix it. And you could void your contract, but if there was a couple $1,000s worth of damage or a basement flooded and now you got to worry about mold and the market's tight for properties, are you going to start over and try to find another home if the seller said no, that was the condition it was? And then you got to wait. Well, let's go to court and let a judge decide. Well, you know, there's no easy solution for this one. If I was the purchaser, I would probably choose, I want it as the date of offer, but I am making my contract contingent on a home inspection that would still give me the opportunity to void my contract if you won't cooperate and fix stuff. But at least in this unique situation that we just went through, okay, at least I would be somewhat protected that way.
So in other words, we're supposed to do it both of them. Date of inspection and date of
No, you don't check
offer.
both. You can't check both boxes. You could check
Okay.
date of offer and then down below ask for a what? Home inspection.
So home inspection, again, I'm coming back to my thing. Home inspection for information purpose, when once it is done, say 10 days if you put, and on the 10th day, if you want to walk out, do you have to give the notice after 10 days or within 10 days?
Within the 10 days.
Within 10 days.
Okay. So if you checked this contract is contingent upon home inspection or other inspections, and I'm going to go to that addendum here in a second, and you choose option 2, within that time period, you have to void your contract. Okay. So let's finish going through this paragraph, and then I'm going to go to that addendum form, and we'll take a look at it. Okay. Now this is important here. Seller will have all utilities and service through settlement or as otherwise agreed. Okay. Your buyer can't seller can't turn off settlement. Utilities till after settlement. They've agreed to it here in property 10. So if the utilities are already off, then they're going to need to turn them back on, because we can't do a home inspection without it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So buyer acknowledges subject to, so if the utilities aren't on, right, then we can't do this. We're going to ask for an extension until you get those utilities back on, and send us a notice, which is something in writing that they're back on. Okay. Now, we have a hold harmless in this paragraph. Buyer and seller will not hold broker liable for any breach of this paragraph. So that's just to protect us, called a hold harmless clause. Okay. Buyer acknowledges, subject to seller acceptance, that this contract may be contingent upon home inspections. Notice the S, right? There can be more than one inspection, and other inspections to ascertain the physical condition of the property. Other inspections. So I want you to go to the contract removal form on page 31 for a second.
Okay, what form you say? Removal form?
Home inspection contingency removal on page
Removal
31.
form. Okay.
Okay. Now, you'll see that you could have a home inspection, you could have a radon inspection, private well and water inspection, septic inspection. Other inspections might be pool, could be all types of other inspections. So that's what they're talking about here in paragraph 10, other inspections. Okay.
So this is the changes they have done. They've added up all this inspection in one inspection, and then you put it in writing what all you want from all the inspections. Along with the home inspection.
You've got a home inspector that did the well and septic and everything all. That's,
yeah.
When they were
Last week
licensed.
we are buying, like my client is we are getting into one property. We finished the inspections. We had to do septic inspection, and then they asked us to do one more camera inspection. The
Yeah.
report didn't come after the.
So each time you remove one, you would use that form. You can remove them all at one time, but I could actually use that form to remove my home inspection, and then later use that same form to remove my well inspection, each inspection. So each one would be a different number, and I'll cover that when we take a look at the removal form. Okay.
I put everything in one inspection and then send it to you.
You could, that's fine. Okay. And attach all the copies to it.
So I was waiting for all the reports to come in.
Or you could use
when it comes
multiple times. Okay. All right. If buyer desires one or more inspection contingencies, such contingencies must be included in an addendum to this contract. So if you had to have a well, all these other inspections, there should be the addendum forms attached. Okay. This contract is contingent upon home inspections and or other inspections, addendum attached, or buyer waives the opportunity to make this contract contingent upon home inspections. That doesn't mean they're waiving the other inspections, right? they still have the right to do the well and septic and the other inspections, and these addendums should be attached. Okay, so if you check the first box, they will be having this home inspection and any other inspection we ask for with the addendum. Everybody clear with that? So could I check the box, date of offer, and down below, contract contingent on a home inspection? Yes, that's basically going to be a home inspection for informational purposes only. We could still avoid our contract. Or I could do date of home inspection, and then I would also check the box that says home inspection. Now, let's finish this paragraph up while we're here, and then we'll take a look at the home inspection addendum form. Buyer acknowledges that except as otherwise specified in this contract, property, including electric, plumbing, existing appliances, heating, air conditioning, equipment and fixtures shall convey in its as-is condition as of the date specified above. So if you chose date of offer, whatever condition they were in that day, at the mercy of the owner's honesty, is the condition it will be at the settlement. But if we chose date of home inspection, we know what condition they were in. Okay, so it's not an easy choice for them to make. A lot of time the choice is made for them by the number of people also writing other contracts.
And Larry, I'm confused.
Me
Okay,
too.
You're asking to put it on a date of offer, and we are choosing to do the home inspection.
you could.
Okay, so if it's something wrong, and when we do in a home inspection, we should ask the seller to fix it.
Correct, but
Okay.
they might say no because it was that way on date of offer. That's the risk. Okay, so this is a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation, right? Date of offer, then everything, anything happened from the date of offer to the date of home inspection, that short time period would still be covered. Personally, I'm probably going to write date of home inspection and ask for a home inspection, but it's a tough choice to make. The problem is, at least if I use date of home inspection and the owner comes back and says, no, I'm not fixing anything because you chose date of offer for the condition of the property, but you had the home inspection, you would still be able to avoid your contract and get out. So am I going to recommend every buyer have a home inspection? Absolutely. Okay. The question is, which date do we choose in the contract? Most agents are going to choose date of home inspection, right? And do the inspection. It would be a very small chance of the problem happening where we had a hurricane come through, do damage, and the owner says, nope, it was already done on the date of that you said you'd take the property in that condition, so I'm not fixing it. If you don't like it, find another house. In a normal market, okay, instead of the market we're in, if you're in a normal market, date of home inspection would be the one I'd make the choice. But it's going to be a tough call for you. Okay. Now let's take a look at the home inspection addendum itself, and that would be on page page 28, the home inspection contingency form. Now, on the home inspection contingency form, it changed several years ago. Okay, home inspection and radon testing contingency addendum. There is now an option 1 and an option 2. They added option 2 to try to get agents to stop writing in the contract for informational purposes only, because that they probably didn't have a right to void the contract no matter what they found wrong with the property. So with option number 2, it does give you the option to void the contract. But let's concentrate on option 1 right now. Okay. Inspection period. Contract is contingent until 9 p.m. X number of days after date of ratification. And date of ratification is capitalized. That is actually defined in our sales contract as the last party receiving the ratified contract, okay, from the other party at whatever location was in paragraph 6, okay? So if it said it had to be delivered to the buyer at their email address, once the seller signed the last change, send it to the buyer, then that's date of ratification, and everything starts the day after delivered by definition. So it's not when the seller initialed the last change, it's when the buyer received it back in accordance with paragraph 6. And we went over that when the first session we had. Upon inspection or inspections of property, and here's another key word, by licensed, if applicable, in Virginia, all home inspectors have to be licensed by DPOR. Before you hire an inspector, ask to see their license from DPOR. Because if you use someone who is not licensed by DPOR, your home inspection is probably useless, and you're going to probably have violated this contingency, and the seller probably won't have to fix anything. Professional insured inspectors at buyer's discretion and expense. Pursuant to the terms of this contract, seller will have all utilities in service. So paragraph 10 says they have to have utilities in service, correct? You can't do an inspection without them. If for any reason the utilities are not in service, home inspection deadline will be extended until 9 p.m. How many days is it taking for you guys to get home inspectors out there? I'm probably asking for 10 in my contract as a buyer's agent to give us time to do this and to get a really good home inspector out there. But you know, that is going to be a negotiable item. All right. Pursuant to the terms. So if you do not have utilities on, after the buyer receives notice from seller, all utilities are in service, we have X number of days. Notice is capitalized. That is a unilateral communication in writing from one party to the other. So once we get that written notification, then our time would start, you know, and we'd have X number of days after you got the utilities back on. Any questions about that part?
You
Yes.
put usually 5 days for the utilities or 3 days for the utilities?
I do 5 days.
I do 10.
Oh, you do 10?
Simply because, you know, we've got to have time enough to get the inspector out there. With COVID-19 floating around, not everybody's going to let just anybody in their house anytime they want. And then you've got to find an inspector that will work. And I want a good inspector, not just anybody that's left over. So I give enough time. Like I say, a lot of listing agents might try to counter you back. And that's, have a discussion with your buyer. What if we can't get somebody out there in 5 days?
No, Mike,
Larry,
this was
as a
question,
point of-
inspection period is 10 days. I will put 10 days, I'm sorry, until 9 p.m. and then extended until 5 days. Is that 5 days or supposed to be 10 days?
Well, if it took 10 days to get the home inspector out there in the first blank, it's probably going to take 10 days after to get the utilities on.
So right
so
answer is 10 days.
So I use
What
the
about
same. I use the same for both.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Somebody else had a question. What was it?
I was going to ask that. That was just a point of clarification as well. I thought you were saying 10 days for the home inspection and then a different number of days for the extension if the
No.
utilities were not on, but you're saying 10 for both.
Sure. I mean, if it's going to
Wow.
take us 10 in the first blank, it's going to take us 10 in the next one.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is a lot of listing agents will try to counter you back to make the days shorter. Okay. But I think you need the time to be able to get the inspectors out there, and if things are wrong, you find some things wrong with the property, don't you want to have time enough to get somebody else out there to inspect? They say you need to get this foundation inspected. Don't you want time to also get that person out there and whatever? So I try to give enough time, and I understand in a multi-contract presentation, you've got to give the world away to get the contract through, but that's not always in the best interest of your client. That's why we have that adverse consequences of what you're doing with your contract form for them to sign. Okay. Now, this is where it's going to get real interesting. If the results of such inspections are unsatisfactory to buyer, in buyer's sole discretion, they don't have to tell you why they don't want to take the house. I just don't want it anymore. Okay. Buyer shall deliver to seller, and there's that capital D, so I'd send it in accordance with paragraph 6 to seller prior to home inspection deadline. Deadline is 9 p.m. on the day specified. Don't wait till the last day to send the stuff over. Okay, do it the day before. Don't fall into a trap. But if you go past that deadline, it's over, right? Now, here's the two choices. By the deadline, an entire copy of the reports and a written addendum listing specific existing deficiencies of the property that buyer would like seller to remedy, together with buyer's proposed remedies. Okay, so if you go back to page 31, you could send over a copy of the report or reports with this inspection removal addendum. And if you were removing the home inspection contingency, you would have up top, number 1, this addendum made on, etc. Buyer agrees to remove the following checked inspection contingencies. Check the box home inspection. If there was a radon inspection still floating around out there, you could remove that by putting number 2 addendum later and sending it over. Or if you have them all done at one time, check each box that you had done: home inspection, radon, private well, septic. You could check all those boxes and just send one form over. Okay. It's better, I think, to separate them, each contingency, and remove it, because after we remove, say, the home inspection contingency, it says upon seller's agreement to remedy the specific existing deficiencies listed below together with the buyer's proposed remedies. It is not good enough to attach a copy of the report and write per home inspector's report. You need to list each item and how they want it fixed. Don't say replace refrigerator and kitchen. I mean, I might be driving home in my pickup, and Harrison set one out at the street. I stop and pick it up and take it home and put it in my kitchen, and take the old one back and put it in front of Harrison's house, because then he has to get rid of it. Okay. And then you do your walkthrough and you say, well, where's our new refrigerator? And I say, it's right there, but this one doesn't work. Well, you didn't ask for one that worked. You said replace it. Okay. Spell it out. Okay. People say, well, I might have to use 3 or 4 forms to spell it all out. You have to spell out what's wrong and how they want it fixed. Electric socket master bedroom doesn't work. That's all it said. So they did the walkthrough and it still didn't work. And they said, well, it didn't work. And the owner said, well, I thought you were telling us don't try to use it. It doesn't work. They didn't ask for it to be fixed. Spell it out. Okay.
So
Now,
in other words, if refrigerator is not working, we can say either change the brand new one or fix it.
I'm gonna not only say replace it with a new one, I'm gonna tell them what model and make I want. That's why I need the 10 days.
Okay.
If that AC is not working, we're gonna call the contractor of our choice and find out what should be in that property. Okay, and that's what we're gonna ask for. Okay, if you just say replace the air conditioner with a new one, what if they put a smaller one in? It won't take care of the property. That's why you need to take your time so that you can get additional prices or whatever additional information you need to prepare this addendum. Okay? Now, this is very important. A complete copy of the corresponding inspection reports are attached for your information and review. You have to attach each report when you remove the contingency. Okay?
Larry, is there a way if you don't want to get the inspection done and get out on the inspection contingency? No.
You can't. You have to have it done to be able to get out. Okay?
Okay.
And we're going to look at that when we go back to the home inspection contingency form. Okay? So unless otherwise specified above, all repairs are to be performed by a contractor licensed to do the type of work required, and receipts or other written evidence that the repairs have been completed will be provided prior to buyer's final walkthrough inspection. So let me ask you a question. Does that mean that your person has to like how my contractor fixed it? No. Okay? I've had situations where I've got calls from agents, well, they don't like the way it was fixed. Well, I'm sorry. All you asked for them to do was get a licensed bonded contractor to fix it. If you want to make sure it's fixed the way you want, then you get the prices, you say who the contractor's got to be, etc. But folks, you're at the mercy of the person that does the work as long as it was a licensed bonded contractor. That's why quite often we would rather get some kind of a credit for us to choose who would do this work. Okay. The problem with that, will the lender allow it? Okay. Now this is, yes.
Larry, what happens if you don't receive the home inspection report and you are the listing agent?
Well, I'm going to go back to that when we look at that addendum form. So hold on just a second. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll cover that. Okay. So prior to buyer's final walkthrough inspection, when do most people do their final walkthrough? When do most people do their final walkthrough as a
The day
buyer?
of settlement.
Okay, on the way to settlement. And you come up with problems with the house. Okay? Can the title company give a credit or something on the sheet? Or anything? No. So that's kind of late. Okay? So if you looked at paragraph 11, you have the right to do final walkthrough inspections for how many days prior to settlement? 7.
7 days.
Right? So
Seven.
if I'm the buyer, I might say, I want to change this language. I want to put that this work has to be done 7 days prior to what?
Settlement.
7 days prior to settlement, because we're coming over on the 7th day before settlement, and we're going to do our first walkthrough, right? And if things aren't fixed, then we've got time to negotiate and see if the lender will allow the credit on the closing disclosure. It gives me time to also get prices. So if I'm the buyer, I'm saying all this work has to be done 7 days prior to settlement. Okay. And we're still going to do our final walkthrough on what day?
Day of settlement.
I'm still going to do a final walkthrough on my way to settlement. I just want this work done before that time. So as a buyer, I'm asking for all the work to be done well in advance of settlement, not before settlement. I don't want contractors in there working 15 minutes before, I'm going to the table.
I had an agency specifically said no 10 days before. You have all the receipts. The work has been done, and we will just give you one walkthrough, which is just a day before settlement or on the way to settlement.
Well,
He specifically said no.
So she doesn't have any power to say no. What did the seller say?
I couldn't argue, so I was
Yes, you
going
could.
to argue with her, but then I said, okay, we are getting into
Well,
this. She
did
said,
you
we have
guys-
all the receipts done. The work has been done. You can see the invoices and all that. So you have to believe us. That's what she said.
Did you change paragraph 11 of the sales contract?
No, Nothing.
No,
It's
that's
about
not,
the home
that's no,
inspection
no,
item
no,
fix.
no buts or anything. My question to you was, did you change paragraph 11 of the contract and everybody initial it?
Paragraph
If
11
not,
is,
No.
paragraph 11. If not, the buyer could have said, I don't care what you agents want. Paragraph 11 says seller will provide me opportunity to walk through inspections within 7 days prior to settlement. Not
That's
one walkthrough inspections
Plural.
7 days prior to settlement and or occupancy. So I don't care what agents want. I get so tired of hearing agents trying to decide what buyers and sellers would do. They signed a legal binding contract. Okay. If it wasn't changed, it's still in there. You guys know anything that's not in writing, anything that's not in writing agreed to by buyer and seller is not enforceable. So if the buyer really wants to get testy about it, they can say, I don't care what the agents want. It says I have the right to be on this property 7 days prior to settlement. Okay.
I should have
So-
sent her this for paragraph.
Well, yeah. So that's why we are going through this contract line by line. If it takes us 6 months, by the time we get through, you guys are going to know what's in your sales contract and where it is. Okay. So
Yeah.
that when the other side tries to say it's always been that way or this or that, you can intelligently discuss it with the other side. Okay. And I
Mhm.
realize we're in an unusual market and you're battling for properties, but that doesn't mean the buyers have to give away everything to get in. There's still things written in the contract that unless they're removed, they can come back later and say, hey, show it to me in writing. Where did we
Mhm.
agree to this? Right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Larry, please, the last question, if you don't mind. If all the job was done, all the condition was done in the home inspection, and the seller get back to us, but the work was not done properly, can we ask him to provide us with the license paperwork of the contractor who did the job?
Then they're in violation of the contract. It says it has to be a licensed bonded
License, okay.
contractor.
Okay,
Okay.
then we can renegotiate everything again and get some credit before we do the
Yeah.
inspection. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Now look, I've had a situation where the seller was in charge of all the maintenance for all the Goodwill stores. I mean, he was a licensed contractor and there were certain things that he said, I'm not paying somebody to come out and do. So what did we have to do to this addendum?
Had to modify it.
Yeah.
We had to modify because it says unless otherwise specified above. He said, I'll have the roofer come out and I'll have this person come out, but these items I'm going to do. This is what I do for a living. So we modified the addendum and everybody agreed that these 2 items would be done by licensed bonded contractors. The rest would be done by the owner. You can do that, but unless you change the wording in the contract, okay? Now, also make sure that these receipts at the table are paid, because remember mechanics liens. If it was a pretty big item, okay, and it just says prior to just says show receipts, okay, that the work has been completed. It didn't say show a paid receipt, okay? So remember the mechanics lien problem could run up if it was an expense item and it wasn't paid for by, wasn't actually paid by the seller, then it could come back and be a problem with the buyer later. And we'll look at mechanics liens later in the contract. Now, back to the home inspection addendum itself, okay? On page 28, because we had a couple questions about this and I want to be very clear about it. So back to 1A2, okay? You could send an entire copy of the reports with a notice voiding the contract, okay? You have to do this properly. If you go to page 38, okay? Page 38. It is called notice voiding a contract. If you are going to void this because of the home inspection, then you need to send over this notice voiding the contract, all right, along with a complete copy of the report. Okay? So let's go back to page 28 for a second, and then I'm going to come back to page 38. It says here right under 1A2, if buyer fails to obtain an inspection. So if you don't obtain an inspection, you can't negotiate or void. Okay? That's a penalty you're going to have to pay. You're going to have to pay for a home inspection. Fails to deliver a copy of the reports to seller, or fails to deliver inspection addendum or notice voiding this contract prior to home inspection deadline. You need to send both. The question was, what if they didn't send the report? Well, then technically, at the end of the period for the home inspection, they no longer have the right to ask for anything. But you don't want to get into a lawsuit and arguments. Call the other side and say, appreciate you sending the home inspection addendum request over, but remember, we need a copy of the what? We need a copy of the reports. I mean, the seller doesn't want to lose a contract and start over. Okay, so I would show the courtesy, not looking for a way to beat the other side, but to show a courtesy saying, we need this written report also. Okay, inspection deadline. Prior to the inspection deadline, this contingency will expire. This contract will remain in full force and effect with no home inspection contingency. So it's pretty straightforward in here. If you fail to do one of these items, then you've lost your home inspection contingency, and you're going forward with this contract. Okay, unless you can find another way out. Now, you notice, that's terrible. Notice that you have to send the notice. You send page 38. I want you to go to page, and I know I'm making you go around, but that'll keep you awake. Go to page 15 for a second. And page 15 is called Release of Sales Contract in Deposit. Have you found me? Do not, let me reemphasize, do not attach your home inspection home inspection report to this release of sales contract and send it over thinking you voided the contract. Okay? You did not send a notice if you use this form. You sent an addendum asking the owner to please let you out of the contract. They don't have to do that. This home inspection contingency said you have to send a notice voiding the contract. You have to send something. If you don't use page 38, I don't know why you wouldn't, but you need to send something over voiding the contract, okay? And you attach the release to it. You kill first, then you plead for the money back, okay? And he make that plain and clear here on page 38. Number 2, this notice is not a substitute for a release, okay? They're two separate actions. Make sure that you void and then release. You could do them both at the same time, but make sure you do what this addendum says to protect your buyer.
Okay, Mr. Gray, if for instance, the seller did not want to sign this paper of releasing the sales contract and deposit, then we have only 10 days and we can move on with it, isn't it?
Why would they sign the release unless you voided your contract first?
No, because after sending the report of the home inspection and we send the release from the voided the contract, then the seller did not want to sign any paper anymore.
The seller did not want to sign?
Yes.
Well, then they breached their sales contract. Paragraph 26 kicks in where your buyer then needs to get an attorney and they will be reimbursed for all the expenses they incur because the seller would not
Sign. Okay.
would not sign it, because there's another paragraph called void. You know, when a contract is voided, that everybody will sign the release. So paragraph 33 of your contract says, if this contract becomes void, no further force in effect, without a default by either party, both will immediately execute a release directing the deposit to go back. So they have breached their sales contract and they have another problem. But that's when they would need to get an attorney involved. Okay, as long as you void it and sent the reports,
That's it.
etc., within the time period.
All right.
Okay. Now, paragraph B. I'm going to go a little longer today, but we need to cover the rest of this addendum. Okay. Paragraph B, negotiating period. So under 1A, you have sent over the entire copy of the report and a written addendum listing the deficiencies. We are now in the negotiating period. So you had 10 days to do your home inspection. You did it on the 3rd day, right? You still have the other 7 days, okay, to either void. You still have the other 7 days to either void. I'm back on page 28, the home inspection contingency. You still have those other 7 days to send over the report and the addendum or a notice voiding the contract. The other side's going to say, well, you had your inspection, send it over. If you send it over on the 7th day, so you've given away those other 3 days, right? But you still have the rest of the days to negotiate until you either send it over or it expires. So once you send it over, the days in the inspection period are over. We're now in negotiating period. Okay. The party shall have until 9 p.m. And I see people put 3 days. I do not understand how you can get this done in 3 days. But, you know, I asked for at least 7 in mine, because what if it's a holiday weekend, right? But it says you have until 9 p.m. X number of days after buyer's delivery of inspection addendum to negotiate a mutually acceptable written addendum addressing the deficiencies by 9 p.m. the date specified. Now, I argued when this came out that meant after 9 p.m. on that day, everything was over and we were in paragraph C. People argued with me. I got all kinds of buts. So they added something to this second paragraph of the negotiating period. At any time during the negotiating period, buyer or seller may make, modify, rescind, or alter as many offers and counter offers as desired to reach mutually acceptable terms. Buyer and sellers may agree on terms by signing written addendum describing agreed upon deficiencies and remedies within the negotiating period. If you had 9 p.m. on 3 days, so this is what, Wednesday, so you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 9 p.m. If you do not have a written addendum in that time period, okay? If you do not have it in that time period, then it's over. You're in paragraph C. So they added these words to make sure everyone understood. Otherwise, all offers and counter offers terminate. It's over. Okay? We now move to paragraph C. If at the end of the negotiating period, 9 p.m. on the day you specified, the parties are unable to reach an agreement, buyer shall have the option to void this contract by delivering notice to seller by 9 p.m. That can be 2, 3 days, 1 day, whatever, following the end of the negotiating period. Otherwise, home inspection contingency shall be removed and this contract remain in full force and effect. I don't care if you guys are still negotiating 4 days and it called for 3, and everybody's still negotiating back and forth. Your days in paragraph C are starting to be used up. So if we continue to negotiate, okay, and we go 7 days And on that 7th day, so you had 3 days for the negotiating period, 3 days for the buyer's election. On the 7th day, the other side stops communicating with you, okay? And then you say, well, we're going to void our contract. And the other side then gets back to you and says, how? You've already used up your 3 days in paragraph C, but we were still negotiating. It doesn't matter. It ended at 9 p.m. on the day specified.
You cannot
if you had-
negotiate in election days, right?
Do what?
If you want the house, can you negotiate in election days and have the addendum signed?
You can extend the negotiating period. So if you don't have, if it looks like you're not going to have the written addendum signed by all parties by 9 p.m. and delivered on the last day, then send an addendum over, getting everybody to extend the days in the negotiating period.
Okay.
Okay.
So election is only, so election, whatever days you put it in election has to be either moving forward or cancellation. That's the only thing.
That's it. So once paragraph B is over, and that's what the point I'm trying to make, once paragraph B is over at 9 p.m. on the day specified, C is kicked in. Your buyer can't mess up. If they don't want the house because they're not going to fix anything, then you need to void their contract in that time period by delivering the notice to void, okay, and the release, or they're going to go with all these problems with the property and the seller's not going to fix any of them.
Larry, one more question I have from paragraph 1. So if we put 10 days of home inspection, we send the report out on 5th day, okay, along with the report and remedies. So then you are in negotiation period.
Correct.
And you still have your 10 days of home inspection to void the offer?
No, once you send that report over and the copy of the report, the rest of the days you didn't use in paragraph 1A are over. We are now in the negotiating period.
So then 10 days doesn't, it's just in case if you don't get the home inspector, you're keeping that 10 days.
Correct. Or if you need time to go out and find prices and estimates, etc.
Okay,
Larry,
so it's always good to send it on the last day of the.
No, I don't. I usually send it the day before in case everybody's arguing about what day it was due. Somebody else had a question. Somebody else had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Larry, what gonna happen if at the end of negotiation period, one party said, I will do, another party said, I'm not gonna do. And
Well, then you're over. You're in paragraph C. Okay, because you didn't have a written agreement to what's going to happen. So once the negotiating period reaches that 9 p.m. on that day, it's over. If one party said, no, I'm not going to do it, and the other one still wants it, now your buyer has to decide what they want to do. Okay.
okay.
But don't wait till the end to try to figure out the day. Once you know, get it over with and move forward. Okay. And I've had this question many times. The seller doesn't like the idea that they sent 20 items over to be fixed under the home inspection addendum. I just void my contract, tell them I'm going to take something else. Seller has no right to void a contract because of the home inspection. Okay. They have to write out the number of days in the contract. They can't void it. I don't care how mad you are. The only party that has the right to void under the home inspection would be the buyer. Okay. So the seller has to ride the days out no matter how mad they are. Okay.
Larry, how many
Yes.
days did you say you typically write for a negotiation period?
I like 7.
Okay, yeah.
And here's why. You remember, if you've been around a while, the old home inspection addendum that we had, it said the buyer would send a list of things over to the seller. The seller had 3 days to do what? We always put 3, to either counter, accept, reject, or just remain silent. Okay. And if any of those happened at the end of those 3 days at 9 p.m., it went back to the buyer, and the buyer had 3 days to either counter back or to accept it, or the contract became void. But anytime anybody countered the other party, it extended it by 3 days. So we had 3, 3, and 3. We had 9 days in the old addendum almost consistently. And now people think they can get it done in 3 and have it in writing and back to all parties. So I like to give enough time to negotiate, okay? Simply because if it was a holiday weekend and your people were gone, you know, and they only had 3 days and you can't reach them, by the time they get back, they're already in the election period. So give yourself a little time if you can get it.
Yes,
But it's always going to be a function of the contract, right?
correct.
How badly they want the property. That's why we have that adverse consequences form, right?
Yep. Thank you.
Now, we also have an option 2, home inspection with option to void. The only difference here, okay, is you don't have the option to send something over to ask for it to be fixed. All right. I know it happens where agents say, well, as a matter of courtesy, we want to send over before we void the contract to see if if the seller would agree to do this. You don't have the right under this paragraph. You can send over whatever you want. Your only option under number 2 is on page 29. If the results of such inspections are unsatisfactory to buyer and buyer's sole discretion, prior to the deadline, send an entire copy of the report and a notice voiding the contract. They have to send both over for this to, go into effect. And if you fail to obtain the inspection or deliver the copy of the reports to the seller or notice voiding the contract, then it's over and you're in full force and effect. So for Fairfax Realty agents, make sure you do what the addendum says. Send a notice to void with the report time frame. Don't take a chance of, having to end up in court with an argument about this wasn't sent or that wasn't sent. Okay.
Larry, I have one question. One of the home inspection we found 2 cracks, exact same space on the house, both the side. So my client got scared, in the basement foundation crack. It was not big, but is it a deal breaker? The whole house was perfect. Everything was good. But do you think people should get scared of the foundation small, like, how you see those cinder blocks and then a crack going down?
Well, being an engineer by degree, which way were the cracks running? So were they settlement cracks or were they foundation cracks? So that's why you need those extra days. I would have probably suggested they get somebody out to, an engineer out to take a look at it, or require the seller.
They did, but fixing those cracks will look patchy. So people, when you sell it also, they will start doubting all this.
You're going to have settlement cracks no matter what in our area. So get over it, right?
Okay.
Cover it up with drywall, you won't see it.
Yes.
Or have the foundation,
most of the
reparched or
already
whatever.
will see some cracks running and all.
Yeah,
Some
sure.
of them.
Yeah, and in basement floors, you see them. It's going to happen. Okay. Good. So that's a lot to be thrown at you in one day. Any other questions about that? If you do, ask me on Monday when we do Ask Larry. I'll be glad to revisit it. But this is a pretty important addendum and pretty important paragraph 10 of our contract to make sure it's done properly.
Larry, how many days would you put in that home inspection with option to void only?
If it's going to be the void only, I tried the same 10 days, but for voiding only, most agents are going to counter you back. So that I would think maybe 5 days.
5 days. Okay. All right. 5 days.
Because they don't want to wait around for you to void. If you're either going to go forward or void.
Okay. All right.
Larry, I have a question not related to the contract. I would like to know, did you have, from your experience, any case when the listing agent didn't submit the offer to the owner?
Well, I'm sure there must have been some time or another, but Our code of ethics, 1-7 of our code of ethics says that a broker can now request from the other broker something, and if it's submitted to them in writing, saying that the offer was presented. Okay, so now code of ethics wise, you have an avenue for the other broker to have to tell your broker whether it was presented or did the owner say they did not want to see it. So our code of ethics did change to allow that to happen. Generally, they were presented. What you really find out is somebody in the end says, well, our offer was much higher, and afterwards we saw where the listing broker actually was a selling agent for less money. What you don't know the rest of the story. Maybe they knew what buyer, in their contract to be accepted. So it's not always about money. It could be other
Larry,
driving factors that you didn't know about that they did.
Larry,
Okay, and what
Yes.
what the consequences will be if the listing agent didn't submit offer?
Well, it's a violation of the code of ethics. They could be fined. If you have a hearing and they're found guilty, they could be fined or whatever. But it's not going to help your buyer out any.
Larry, one question.
Hold on. How can you prove that the agent didn't submit the offer?
Well, that's going to be difficult. That's why they made it broker to broker. So the other broker would have to say, yes, it was submitted and the owner decided not to do it. That's why in a earlier session, I told you our statute actually says that you should write on the contract that wasn't accepted, reject it, and have the owners initial it and send the first page back when you get all these contracts in. Okay.
But if it's happening
here's the good news. Here's the good news to me. Will this market stay this way forever? No. So when there's more buyers when there's more properties on the market than buyers, then the listing agents will be begging us. So it'll be the reversal. Buyers will then be trying to take advantage of sellers the way sellers are taking advantage of buyers now. So, this thing goes around in circles. After 43 years, I've seen many, many times this thing switch.
Yeah, I agree with you. But if it's happening with rentals, for example, we submit the application and then we increase the price for 300, and the listing agent decided to conclude it quickly and not to pay attention. That's what we.
Well, the listing agent didn't do that. The seller did. So you've got to prove that they didn't have those written instructions from their seller. And the other part of the code of ethics says, or that the seller did not want to see it. Okay. It's not always about money. Believe me.
But in my case, it was about money.
Well, did you talk to the seller and find out?
The listing agent mentioned that the owner is willing to take another offer because it was higher offer, and my clients overbid it.
Well, see, then your buyer and you can't really do too much other than bring an ethics charge. Who should be upset with her would be her seller who lost money. They're the ones that would have an action against her.
Right, right.
It's just the way it is.
But is it possible to connect to the seller?
Do
we have a right?
No.
No. Okay.
Buyer could, but
buyer could, but agent don't.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Larry, I have a question. We were ready.
I'm going to start charging you per question.
So we were going in negotiation and we were almost getting the offer ratified, but my client wanted to see the other offers because it was like waiving appraisal, and she wanted to see not the name but the actual price of the offer. Are you allowed to show the actual price of the offer or just the escalation? Can you show some full contract also? Because
if you use the escalation addendum, they have to show you the winning contract.
No, it was not going into escalation because overall the price of the
No, then
investing.
they don't have to
That's
do
why
that.
that's what the escalation form is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
but
don't have to do
the
that.
contract never went into escalation. It was just the appraisal waiving form, somebody. So my client thought that the other side agent is playing with us by telling us lies that they have offers and they may not have it. So I want to see the other offers.
Well,
So it's not mandatory, right?
You have no right to request that.
Request that. That's what I was telling her. But they said I will sign only if they show us the other offer.
I mean, they can always make a lower offer and take their chance. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Anderson, I have
Yes,
a
sir.
general question. General question. If I list the house for somebody, for the owner, and owner there's so many offers comes in. Owner after that decided not to sell the house. He can do that, right? Or no?
He can do it, yeah.
He can change his mind.
But make sure it wasn't because of fair housing violation. Okay.
Oh,
When
okay.
you put it,
I got you.
when your owner puts a listing into the system, it's saying, I'm thinking about selling my house. I'm thinking about
Right.
taking this much money, but I might not.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So save all these Ask Larry questions for Monday. Okay.
All right.
We've been at this for quite a while. So I will see you guys, unless there are any other questions about paragraph 10. I will see you guys on Monday at 11 o'clock. Okay.
Thank
And
you.
I will do Ask Larry, but we will be dealing with 55-1-1800 to 1837 of your statute. So you might want to Google 55.1-1800 Virginia, and that will take you to the POA Act, and you can read through it. It'll make more sense when we discuss it if you do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
You
Thanks, everybody.
guys have a good day, and I will see you on Monday. And thanks for sticking with me for this long.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Larry.
Thank you.